To stop the chemical, physical, and emotional mutilation of our youth. On day one, I will revoke Joe Biden's cruel policies on so-called gender-affirming care. Ridiculous. A process that includes giving kids puberty blockers, mutating their physical appearance, and ultimately performing surgery on minor children. Can you believe this? I will sign a new executive order instructing every federal agency to cease all programs that promote the concept of sex and gender transition at any age. I will then ask Congress to permanently stop federal taxpayer dollars from being used to promote or pay for these procedures and pass a law prohibiting child sexual mutilation in all 50 states. It'll go very quickly. I will declare that any hospital or healthcare provider that participates in the chemical or physical mutilation of minor youth will no longer meet federal health and safety standards for Medicaid and Medicare and will be terminated from the program immediately. Furthermore, I will support the creation of a private right of action for victims to sue doctors who have unforgivably performed these procedures on minor children. The Department of Justice will investigate Big Pharma and the big hospital networks to determine whether they have deliberately covered up horrific long-term side effects of sex transitions in order to get rich at the expense of vulnerable patients, in this case, very vulnerable. We will also investigate whether Big Pharma or others have illegally marketed hormones and puberty blockers, which are in no way licensed or approved for this use. My Department of Education will inform states and school districts that if any teacher or school official suggests to a child that they could be trapped in the wrong body, they will be faced with severe consequences, including potential civil rights violations for sex discrimination and the elimination of federal funding. As part of our new credentialing body for teachers, we will promote positive education about the nuclear family, the roles of mothers and fathers, and celebrating rather than erasing the things that make men and women different and unique. I will ask Congress to pass a bill establishing that the only genders recognized by the United States government are male and female, and they are assigned at birth. The bill will also make clear that Title IX prohibits men from participating in women's sports, and we will protect the rights of parents from being forced to allow their minor child to assume a gender which is new and an identity without the parents' consent. The identity will not be new, and it will not be without parental consent. No serious country should be telling its children that they were born with the wrong gender, a concept that was never heard of in all of human history. Nobody's ever heard of this, what's happening today. It was all when the radical left invented it just a few years ago. Under my leadership, this madness will end. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that was a mouthful, you know. Pause. But this election was emotional. You know, I'm sure people were conflicted. I'm sure a lot of us, you know, probably down to the wire didn't know which way we were going to lean, you know, but it was heavily emotional because people are going to be emotional when you're affecting their kids and their money, or if they feel like that's being affected. And I mean, I think, you know, they leveraged policy to get you emotional. You know, women's rights, that's a very emotional topic. You know what I mean? That they push down, that they cram down your throat, you know, and then you have the Israel Palestine. That was emotional for a certain sector of people. You know, they were willing to, they didn't believe what Kamala had to say about that. You know, there were certain states where Kamala was running ads to support Palestine. And then in other markets where she knew that there was a heavy, you know, Palestinian demographic, she would run ads to support Israel. You know, so they were playing to, and people knew that. So when you're talking about people's money and you're affecting their kids, like, yeah, it's gonna be emotional. And I mean, America spoke. I mean, you saw that map. Like, it was a blowout. Like like Trump flipped places that were traditionally never flipped. You understand what I'm saying? Like he probably flipped Harlem. You know what I mean? Like Compton, like places where you like, how the hell did he win this area? How the hell did he win in Chicago? What's the area, man? How the hell did he flip O Block? You know what I'm saying? Like it just doesn't happen. But what I'm saying is they ran on the policies and leveraged the policies. But do you remember a year ago when they asked that question to what was it, Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown, where they asked her like, "What is a woman?" So it's like you have the Democrats that are running on women's rights while simultaneously not even defining what a woman is. Like, how do you do that? You know what I mean? Y'all was speaking on women's sports. Imagine your daughter competing in a swimming contest, a track contest, and they're allowing a man to compete with her who is dusting her. No competition, obviously, you know what I'm saying? Because it's just not the natural setup. Male are, stronger, faster. That's natural. So she's
Don't
competing
forget MMA and boxing too, Jay.
MMA and boxing, so your child is competing in all these sports where they're allowing men to compete against them under a different identity. Is that not looked at as women's rights as well? You know what I'm saying? Does your daughter, who's a female or woman, not have the right to compete in a fair, athletic competition? So it was just too much stuff that was not believable. When you hang your hat on women's rights, it has to be across the board, or your message falls flat. So I think along with that, and the Democratic Party, they set Kamala up. Like, she did the best she could do in that time frame, but she wasn't the one. Everybody knew she wasn't the one. They just felt like, yo, we're gonna push her out there. This is the best that we could do, and we're gonna make the best of it. And she failed. And not that she got blown out in the first quarter. The minute I turned my TV on that day, it was like 185 to like 41. You understand what I'm saying? That's like Golden State Warrior game. So that's America saying, we don't believe you. So they're going to have to get back, find a person that we believe, somebody that understands what the average person is going through. Right now, we don't feel good, and people's money is, people's holding on to dollars for dear life. This is not a big time where people are doing a lot of investments. No, you holding on to what you have and you hoping that it changes because you don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. So this election was 100% emotional. The Israel and Palestine, people's families are being depleted over there. So that means something to them. So if you sitting up here talking about women's rights, meanwhile, where I was raised has been eradicated, and you're continuing to fund. And then, the migrant crisis. Me personally, I spent like the last 41 days in New York, and I got to see it for myself. I'm in South Carolina where, I don't see it often, but New York City, I got to see it with my own eyes. I heard about it, but I got to see it. It's crazy. And then you have people that are actual citizens that are suffering, they're not getting their aid, they're not being helped. But meanwhile, you can shell off money to these people. So yeah, please believe they don't want nothing to do with that. And I'll let them play now.